You're in the mountains of the Poconos of Pennsylvania. I'm in the cornfields and hop skipping away from a dairy farm here in the state of Wisconsin. And yet both of us have been able to build audiences of podcast listeners in countries all around the world. A lot of people ask, how did you do that? And the answer is incredibly easily, but very hard work was involved as well. Can you give us shine a little light on how it started for you with the Stuck in My Mind podcast?
Okay, so originally I was going to do a podcast with a friend of mine and we were going to do a sports podcast. And so I purchased this equipment in 2019. He had him and his wife got pregnant. So that kiboshed that idea. We didn't get to do the podcast. Fast forward to 2020, April, I get furloughed from March, I get furloughed from my job because, I don't want to mention that word right now because it's going, but everybody knows why I was furloughed. So I was just home. The wife had a big to-do list for me and I was tired of doing it and I had to find something else to do. So they gave me another reason to press record.
Wow. So like many of us, we all have had different challenges during these 2 full years of COVID. Like many of us, a lot of us have taken up hobbies or different pastimes just to keep us busy. You actually chose to do something that not only kept you busy, but actually was kind of the seed for an entire business.
Yeah, it encouraged me to start my production company.
So talk about that a little bit. What's the name of your production company?
Real Wize Productions. It's a play on my nephews, because it's me and my nephew and our friend Brandy. And it's a play on his podcast, which at the time was Talking Real 1000. And of course, my name. It's just something we decided. We felt that this is something, if we can help people press record and not be afraid and help them escape the pitfalls that we went through when we started doing this, then that's amazing. That's awesome. That'd be great. Recently, I've gotten my first client and I've helped her launch her YouTube page. She's been great. It's amazing just being able to help someone avoid the pitfalls that I had when I first started. And then it's just been a lot of, I have a lot of fellow podcasters that help support, that if they know someone that needs some help, they'll send them my way. And that's been amazing. That's been great. That's one thing that I love about the podcast community is that we support each other so much. Some of my biggest supporters are fellow podcasters.
Yeah, that's because we all face the same challenges. Obviously, technical issues can be huge, but even things like how do you schedule guests or how do you get the kind of caliber guest that you want to have? All of these things, if you do it yourself, you can learn the hard way. But that's one of the benefits of doing this is you develop a whole new toolkit of skills that it sounds like in your case is being marketable to other people who want to kind of take the shortcut. They don't want to take the long way around that you and I have taken, but that's okay because, again, based on what you've described right there, you're more than happy to do it for them for a slight fee. And all of a sudden you've got a business, right?
Yeah, definitely. And there's other things I've done. I've started doing cover art for other podcasts, cover art for other YouTube channels, creating logos. That's one. One thing definitely, if you're definitely going to do all your own work, all your own cover art, all your own stuff, get Canva. Canva is a lifesaver. That has helped me so much in my business. It's helped me create logos that I've sold. I've designed a logo in 30 minutes for someone and made $250. That's like, where do you go? Like, you can't go to any job, like no regular job anyway, and get paid $250 for half an hour of work.
Yeah. For people like me who've worked in advertising and marketing, I've used pro quality equipment and applications my entire career. And for the longest time, all of these things, I mean, if you wanted to get Adobe Photoshop before they started doing the monthly charge versions, you'd pay $400, $500 for the application alone. And then every couple of years, you had to get the new version because the operating system wouldn't work with it and all this stuff. And, it was very much like the professional grade stuff was hidden behind walls that you couldn't get to. Canva spelled Canva, is an application that, frankly, you can run off an iPhone or a laptop via the internet and create what I would call industrial quality art. You know, it's the stuff the pros use, and it costs what?
Oh, they have a free version.
Yeah, they have a free version. We talked last week about barriers to entry. And, you know, if you sit down there and you put a line item in the spreadsheet for everything you need to do it absolutely 100% correctly, you're going to go, oh, that's way too much money. I can't afford that. Well, I'm not suggesting you do that. I think Will would agree with me. Do not start with paid versions of anything. Go out and use the free versions of everything, because just about every social media platform out there has a free version. And so there's no, like, if you say, well, I can't afford to do it, it's like, what's there to afford other than your blood, sweat, and tears? I mean, seriously, do you use Podbean as your host for your podcast?
Yes, Podbean. I love Podbean.
Yeah, I do too. And again, okay, so let's just play this game. Someone says, okay, well, how much does it cost to have your podcast hosted by somebody else so that you don't get hit with these outrageous bandwidth fees and stuff? And the answer is $5 a month. Can you go a day without a Starbucks coffee so you can have a podcast that could potentially reach thousands, if not millions of people around the globe? Yeah, I can do without that cup of coffee. I'll spend the $5 for that.
You got to tell them though that at the $5 price is if you pay for the year, which I recommend to everyone, is if it's going to be cheaper if you just pay it up for the year. And that's the year you don't have to worry about anything but just uploading your podcast. And they also have a feature where you can go live on Podbean. And Podbean has a big community as well. And if you build that community, that also extends to your podcast, which I'm learning now, which I'm starting to do more lives on Podbean. Because again, like I said, they have a big following on Podbean. You just got to be consistent on it with the live shows. Well,
and that's a key too. Consistency. My podcast goes out every single Monday and has for going on 4 years, or we're now in the 4th year of that. And I do everything myself. Edit every episode every Saturday, you know, before it goes live on Monday. I see you shaking your head there too. What's your schedule and how do you keep that going?
It's crazy because lately I've been doing one once a week, but I really need to pick it up because I have so much back catalog. I'm still releasing episodes that I recorded in June. The only reason the ones that are getting released that I record recently, they're getting released to my YouTube, is because they're video. And like I said, I just transitioned to video. But I have such a back catalog of audio that I need to really focus and really start putting out like 2-3 episodes. So I sort of get kind of caught up. But I guess having so much content is a good thing.
Yeah, that's very true, because for so many people, the fear is that I won't have enough content, or how do you do this? I mean, seriously, do you record somebody every week and edit it on the weekend to have it for the next week? And the answer is some weeks, yeah, but most of the time I've got stuff in the can. I've got the raw record that's just sitting in a file waiting for me to deal with it. And I can build up this backlog of material and content. I hate the word content because it kind of belittles everything that we do. But the fact is, it's just easier to say content is the stuff that has to be refined and edited to then be posted. So the question is, do you have a pantry full of content? And my happy answer is yes. It sounds like your happy answer is as well. Yes, with a couple of exclamation points.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good problem to have. And some of the guests that I've been reaching out to and letting them know, hey, I'm releasing it now. They've been great. They've been amazing. I'm like, hey, it's cool. I understand. So just being able to have them understand and know that I'm kind of backed up. I do everything. They know I do everything myself, and it's not easy. Podcasters who do everything like me and you know the hard work that goes into this. This isn't easy. Those big name podcasts and all that, none of them sit home and edit their podcast. They have a crew for that. They have a team for that. We don't. But I feel that we're special. That's why I feel these smaller podcasts are much more special, because you're getting people's blood, sweat, and tears. You're getting people's hard work who are out there trying to put out good content, and they're doing it on their own. No team, no nothing.
You can see that happening all over the place all the time for people who have yet to get that big break or get that notoriety, get that spotlight shown on them. One of the stories that I'm really infatuated with right now is this band in Minneapolis called Durry, Durry, that I happened to see them on TikTok, and it was like a live, just they hit play, went live, and threw it up on TikTok. And it was a really cool song. And I'm like, why aren't these guys better known? Well, I wasn't the only one who felt that, because all of a sudden they started getting play after play. People started loving it, giving it thumbs up or hearts on TikTok. And then they started getting label attention. Then they came out with their own shot in a garage lyric video where it's just the words to the song and them, the guy and his sister doing the song. And I'm like, I love the immediacy of it. I love the rawness of it. I love the personality of it. This was not some Hollywood crew with A+ director or anything like this. This was them doing it themselves, and you can tell. And that made it even better. People are doing it, and they attract those breaks. I don't know if you're working toward that, but I'm actively trying to attract those breaks that can take you from here to the next level. Simply, and all it takes is somebody who is already somebody to go, that was pretty good. And all of a sudden things blow up, and it happens overnight only because you've been doing it for the past 15 years.
This episode of the Nonfiction Brand podcast is brought to you by my new book, Nonfiction Brand. Discover, craft, and communicate the completely true, completely you brand you already are, now available on Amazon.com. Jay Baer, best-selling author of Talk Triggers, said, "The book is outstanding, highly recommended, a spectacularly useful guide to personal branding that pulls off the difficult trick of being both realistic and inspirational. A must-read, regardless of where you are in your own brand-building journey." To get your copy, head on over to Amazon.com and search Nonfiction Brand. And let's get you all the credit you deserve for the completely true, completely you brand you already are.
Okay, what is it? I seen a meme, a picture. It was just showing the iceberg. It just showed the tip of the iceberg out of the water and the rest of it under it. And under it, it just explained all the struggles you went through to reach the top of the iceberg. Everything you went, but nobody sees that part. Nobody sees everything that you had to go through to get to where you're at. They only see the success. They don't see the technical difficulties. They don't see the recordings that didn't get recorded. They don't see the guest that goes to you because you don't have enough viewers for them. So it's crazy that they only get to see the top of they only get to see the success that I'm having now. They don't see the struggles that I went through to get to where I'm at.
I'm reminded of somebody I follow who literally, he said on one of my favorite podcasts, his name is Scott Galloway. He said, "It took me 30 years to become an overnight success." He is now going to have a show on CNN Plus, the streaming service that CNN is putting together. And I've known him for a long time, followed him for a long time, because the guy is brilliant. He was brilliant then, he's brilliant now, but he didn't get discovered until enough key people saw him. And all of a sudden, he's hanging out with the likes of Anderson Cooper and Sanjay Gupta at CNN because they recognize, oh, wow, you're the guy who was on Bill Maher, Real Time with Bill Maher. And he got that gig because he was tapped by somebody who's well-known in podcast circles as a really good person to have as a guest. He then becomes a host, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it took him 30 years to become an overnight success. And there's been a ton of blood, sweat, and tears there. But man, he's laid the ground, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Well, he was sowing great stuff. And one of the things I want to point back to is something you mentioned last week. You decided you wanted your podcast to be one that was one of positivity. of uplifting energy. Again, you mentioned the fact that you were inspired to create a podcast because of the events surrounding the murder of George Floyd and everything that came after that. You chose not to do what a lot of people chose to do, which was sit and bitch about things and people and systems and processes. You chose to become, I would almost call it a beacon of hope or a bright shining light of can-do goodness. Why did you choose to do that? Are you naturally a glass half full person?
You know what? I chose to do that because it felt the right thing to do. To me, it just felt that it was something that needed to be. You could easily go and get clicks by being scandalous and doing craziness, but that's not what I want. I want my audience to follow me because I'm doing positive stuff. I want them to follow me because I'm helping uplift people, not bring them down. That's not what I'm about. That's why we started the production company. That's why we started the internet radio station, is to give artists, musicians that don't have the outlet to perform on the radio station, to have their music played on the radio station, or podcasters who want to go do a live show. I offer them that opportunity, and I don't charge them. I don't charge them because a lot of podcasters, they just starting out. They don't have money. They don't have no money, and it's built. And I felt like, listen, let me start this, build up the station. When it gets to a point where we can start generating ad money, then we all eat. That was my goal, and that still is my goal. 2022, we're going to just go harder. We're actually publishing a book. My nephew wrote a book. We got the final work done. We're uploading it on Kindle, so we got that for pre-orders. And we're going in so many different directions, and the book is amazing. It was helped by ghostwriter, helped us, Pepper Chambers. She's amazing. She helped us get his book to where she made it into a philosophy book, into something that people need to read because it's something positive and it's something to help. Because my nephew, he's been through a lot in his life. He had a crackhead mother, to being convicted for drug trafficking, selling drugs, to turning his life around, to being a great father to his son, to send an example for his son, to be like, hey, listen, even though I went down this path, I've turned my life around. And here's my message to people like me that have made that choice, that went down that path. You have another opportunity. And he's taking it. And I support him 100%. I back him. And it's just amazing to be able to support family like that, to be able to help people, to be able to help him share his message and bring out his story so people can hear it.
You hit on something right there. Share your voice so people can hear it. And full circle. We started last week's episode talking about the very first time you press that play button to go live on your podcast. You didn't have professional microphones. You didn't have professional connections and fancy fader buttons or switching blah, blah, blah. You didn't have that technology. And frankly, you didn't have the skill set either because you had never done it before. But that didn't stop you from getting out there and sharing your voice. Now, we've heard a lot about the need for diversity of voices out there. I will tell you right now, I think the most diverse place for anything when it comes to communication is the universe of podcasts, because you can find any podcast you want to hear out there, no matter how niche-y, no matter how small or focused. There is someone who's out there sharing their voice on that topic. And again, not everybody has a book they want to sell. Not everybody has a philosophy they want to espouse or attract others to follow. But a lot of people are sharing their story because here's the thing. There's only one thing that you truly own that is 100% yours and no one can take from you. And that is your voice telling your story. And again, Will Wize Otero, El Jefe of Real Wize Productions, he is out there telling his story on his podcast, Stuck in My Mind. What kind of guests do you have on Stuck in My Mind? Is there a profile of the perfect guest for that podcast?
recently I've had a lot of people that come on that are authors, entrepreneurs, actors, actresses, musicians. I've had all types. One of my favorite guests is Stevie Ray. He's a former professional wrestler, and we had an amazing conversation. Because this was one of my first big celebrities kind of guest, and I've had quite a few celebrities. I've had, if you've ever seen the movie The Warriors,
Oh yeah.
I had one of the Warriors on my show, and it was amazing because I remember seeing him in the movie, and it's one of my favorite movies. And to have him on my show and to speak to him was awesome.
Warriors come out to play.
Yeah. And that was improvised. That when he was talking about, he said that was improvised, and when he did it, they was like, "Whoa!"
Oh, that was the spookiest thing in that movie, man.
But just being able to speak to people, and no, there's no criteria. If you have a story you want to share, it's something that might inspire or uplift, or someone might take something from it, then you're more than welcome to come on my show. Like I said, I've had high school friends on my show. I've had coworkers. I've had one of my best friends on. She was an essential worker, and she worked at an old age home, and she spoke about what was going on with COVID and everything at that time. But recently, I'm not gonna lie, I've had a lot of people that come and they've shared some amazing stories. Just like yourself, when you came on, it was a great conversation. And that's why I need to get these episodes that I have in the can out, because there are some great nuggets in some of these episodes. Like, I'm editing an episode right now and I'm listening to it and I'm remembering the conversation. And I'm like, oh, this is one of my favorite episodes that I recorded. I need to get this out ASAP. And it's just, more I listen to the ones I have, I'm like, oh, I got to get this one out. I got to get this one out. But it's just so amazing to be able to like talk to different types of people. I've had Liz Priestley on. She's an actress for over 25 years. She just got her big break on oh man, I can't even remember the movie now. It's the cowboy movie with Idris Elba that came out prior to the one he just did. And it was her first Hollywood film. And for her first Hollywood film to be done with Idris Elba and the young man that played in Stranger Things, that played her son, it was awesome to be able to speak to her and hear her journey from working on stage in Philadelphia and New York City and local community theaters to where she is now, being the leading lady for Idris Elba.
Again, it takes 25 years to become that overnight success, and you got to start somewhere. And I think a great place to start is to listen to podcasts, because you get to hear all different styles, all different voices. And again, it's not about trying to copy anybody else. It's trying to find your own voice. A great way to do that is to start guesting on podcasts. It sounds like Will's open to having some guests apply to be on his podcast. So if I were interested in being a guest on Stuck in My Mind, how could I get in touch with you?
If you go to the production website, realwiseproductions.com, there's a link on top that says, Speak to Wize. My girl Brandy she designed the website, and it's great. It's a link on top. You click on it, it takes you to my calendar, and you just schedule a day for us to sit down and talk.
There you go. Definitely do that, or connect with Wize wherever you can. Check out the Stuck in My Mind podcast, www.stuckinmymind2020.com. You can get more information, but you can also find the podcast just about any place fine podcasts are free, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc.
That's the great thing about being on a platform like Podbean, that they distribute to everything. They distribute to mostly all podcast platforms out there.
Yeah, it makes it very, very easy.
Yeah, so because once you get on Apple, you get on like 7 different other listings. And once you get on Google, you get on a bunch of listings. So once you get on Spotify, you get on different listings. So what I tell people is, you don't necessarily have to do Podbean. That's your choice. That's where I want it, because I did my research and I enjoyed the benefits that they were offering me. But do your research. People want to go to Anchor because it's free. Yeah, but I read the fine line when it comes to Anchor.
Yeah,
there's certain things you can't do, and I don't know if it kind of like take control of your content. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I want that.
And there's a real benefit too to be able to say, oh yeah, you can hear me on Spotify or you can hear me on Apple Podcasts. I mean, there's real cachet to that and there's real value to that. So to me, it's hugely worth it to spend the few dollars it takes to be on a podcast host like Podbean. And again, Podbean is not paying me and they're not paying you. We just use the service and pay for it and gladly support it.
I am an affiliate now.
Okay. All right. Well, so go to stuckinmymind2020.com and hit the affiliate link so that Will can get a little bit of a payback should you join Podbean.
Well, go to the Real Wize Productions. That's where the affiliate link is. But yes,
All
I
right.
am an affiliate. They offered me the opportunity and I took it. I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we both recommend Podbean because we both have had superior experiences with the service. So check that out. But again, the key is not to be stymied by perception of cost. You can do stuff for free to get started. So start now. You know, Will had the great example of use Canva to create your cover art. Canva is free. Yes, there are paid levels for it, but you don't need to use it. You can get 90% of the cow for free. So why would you pay for the milk? You know, seriously. And again, if you want to listen to the Stuck in My Mind podcast, check out Stuck in My Mind on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, or go to stuckinmymind2020.com where you can get more information about that. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Will. Once again, I am your host of the Nonfiction Brand podcast, DP Knudten, and he is
Will Wize Otero, El Jefe.
So I'll be talking at everybody next week. Bye-bye.